From Hollywood, California, welcome to Reza Riffs with your host, Keith Reza.
Hey, Rifters, welcome to the show. Uh, my Nightwing to my Batman, Victor Pacheco is here. However, I'm thinking about changing Victor's name to VP because that's what Ivan called you, and I liked it.
VP. Oh, that's great.
I
Yeah,
was
that
like, VP, yeah,
it made me feel special, man. I'm like, dude, no one's ever called me VP, extra large, yes, but not VP.
VP stands for Vice President.
Nice. Good
Yeah,
ring. Good ring.
yeah.
Better
So
than second fiddle, that's for sure.
that's true. You should start a new podcast called VP,
Second fiddle.
Second Fiddle.
VP, the second fiddle.
Yeah. Dude, I have a great idea for a new podcast. This might not be appropriate for this week's opening remarks, but check it out. You know how I love John Cusack, right?
Yeah.
So I have an idea for a podcast called Searching for John Cusack. And I interview everyone who's worked with John Cusack, and they're just like 10-minute interviews. And
Yeah.
here's the question. What's it like working with John Cusack?
Jesus Christ. What happens if somebody answers that in like 20 seconds and then you just
Oh,
shit out of luck for like nine and a half minutes? What happens then? What happens
well,
then, Keith? What happens
yeah.
then, dude? I was
Well,
like, yeah,
the
it was a
Victor,
pleasure. It was the best time of my life. What can I say?
Victor, Rome wasn't built in a day.
I love this ongoing joke, this recurring joke, man. It's running gag.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So,
But yeah, it wasn't. It really wasn't.
it was not, no. So we have a great guest today. He's a writer, actor. You've seen him on Mad About You, Independence Day. He wrote The Tooth Fairy with The Rock. He wrote all these great things, and he has a book called that's out called Jim Piddock, uh, My Pants Out. And I read it, and it was very, very funny. I'm sorry, it's called Caught with My Pants Down, Jim Pedick. Uh,
You weren't too far off. Not too far off.
well, no, because on my Kindle, it only gives you certain words. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But fantastic book, and Jim Piddock is right here, ready to rock and roll on Razor Riffs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. My light went out, and the thing it was like a big explosion too. It was very scary. Well, yeah, it happened like right at like 10 minutes before this interview, so I'm really hoping it doesn't get dark.
I hope it doesn't happen again.
I still have two lights. Hi, Jim.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you fine. How are you?
Perfect. Good, good, good.
Jim, this is Victor. He's the trusty sidekick.
How are you? Nice
Good,
to meet
yourself? Great to meet you.
So the trusty sidekick is if you say something funny and you need a laugh track, you just point to him and say VP.
you. Well, yeah, that may not be necessary because I'm unlikely to say anything funny.
Oh no, I'm sure you don't.
I've got a laugh already. There you
Yeah.
go.
So Jim, I wanted to start with your book and then we'll work away. I read your book. I was up all night last night reading it and I loved it. I think it was an easy read. And
Thank you.
I got it on the Kindle and I wanted to ask you like how it like because when you write scripts, you probably use like Final Draft or Celtics or something. What's the software you use for a book when you're writing a book?
I think I did it. Now I'm writing in Microsoft Word, but I think I wrote in Pages. I found a book format in Pages. Um, Here we go. There we go for your viewers. There we go.
Hi. Caught with My Pants Down by Jim Piddock. It's very funny.
Is that writing in reverse to you or normal?
No, it
No,
looks great.
it's
Perfect.
great. Yeah.
Okay, on my screen it's all in reverse, like it's in a mirror. How
No,
weird.
no. I could read it pretty fine.
Very good.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. So yeah, I've done the plug. That's it. That's all over. So yeah, I think I did it in Pages. They had a special book format, and I even put the photos in that format as I was writing, or after I'd finished writing. But now I just finished a novel, and I actually wrote it in Microsoft Word.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to, because I read in the book that it took you about 5 months to write this one. How long has it taken you to write this novel?
Quicker. Well, no, about the same actually, about the same. Um, the novel was sort of something I had fairly well worked out. But yeah, no, I think in total time it was about the same because I went back and rewrote it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Is it easier and faster for you to write books or screenplays and scripts?
Way faster to write screenplays.
Yeah.
Way faster.
Yeah. How many drafts on a screenplay do you write before you like turn it in to try and pitch it?
It varies. Usually there's at least 3 to 6 drafts
Yeah.
before I turn in what I considered my first draft.
Do you ever get, because like I write scripts and I go to screenwriting school, and I've only like pitched one script and I got all these notes and they were all pretty mean. And I was wondering, have you ever gotten like a whole bunch of mean notes, like basically
Uh,
change the whole story?
I don't know if I'd call them mean. I've had lots of incomprehensible notes.
Yeah.
Unless someone delivers them with a mean attitude, I don't know if I'd say I've got mean notes in the past. I've got really dumb notes. I've got incomprehensible notes, and I've got dubious, questionable notes. But I think with anything like that, if you're working blind and not writing for a specific company, where then you have to take their input, whether you like it or not. But if you're just starting and writing something on spec and you want to get some feedback, my sort of feeling is that you need about 3 to 5 people to give you feedback.
Yeah.
And if you hear the same thing from 3 of them or more, you know there's an issue.
Yeah.
If it's less than, if one person says, I just didn't get this character, I didn't relate to this, or I thought this was a bad story turn, but no one else mentions it, you can probably discard it.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, like, when you write scripts, do you write, like, are you the type of guy who could write down the story first and then the dialogue, or like how does your mind work when you're
I
in that?
usually have an outline, usually a detailed outline, but not always. If it's from a true story or book, then I might work off the material itself rather than me writing a sort of a treatment. But it varies. But usually, yeah, certainly if I'm going out to pitch something, I've got a treatment in already done. Yeah.
Well, and when you write with Christopher Guest, and you've written with your ex-wife too, so like when you write this stuff, like how much percentage do you write versus the other partner, and then what form do you guys collaborate?
I do everything from start to finish.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
No, and they just stick their name on it. No, I with Chris, we talk a lot. We talk a lot and take copious notes. Both times I've written with Chris, I've actually done the actual writing.
Yeah.
So we talk and we talk and talk for often months, and I've written, a yellow pad full of notes, and then I will put some sort of outline together and structure, the film or the TV episode script, and then give it to Chris to read, and we'll talk about it some more. But the actual physical writing with him, I did it. With my ex-wife, it would be 50-50. If it was my idea originally, I'd probably end up doing the write of the first draft, and vice versa.
Yeah. So I just think it would just be so hard to write with somebody else, because like, you would have your ideas and then but maybe it's easier to bounce off ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, it is easy to bounce off ideas. I've written with Don Lake too, and Don and I, we did one series of 6 shows for ABC, and he wrote 3 and I wrote 3 simultaneously. But we'd worked out the whole, storylines, and we'd worked out everything beforehand,
Yeah.
and a lot of the dialogue, we had ideas, and so it was much quicker for him to write 3 while I was writing 3. I think I took odd numbers and he took even numbers or something like that. And then we kind of looked at each other's, and then sort of did rewrites, based on that.
Oh, that's awesome.
So very rarely do I actually, I've never really written, you know, line by line with anybody. It's
Yeah.
always been a collaboration, but one person goes away and does the actual physical writing.
Or they send you voicemails and be like, "Hey, put this joke or something in the script," right? And you're like,
Yeah, or just get an email, saying, "Oh, I had an idea here," or whatever. But with Chris, it was a question of there's not really much surprises because we talked everything through and we had a lot of ideas. I just then shape them and try and make sense of them. And then once I've done that, we kind of proceed from there.
uh, I apologize. I have so many writing questions because I'm very like my master is stand-up comedy and I'm like really bad at writing. So I'm fascinated with writing.
That's interesting. A lot of stand-up comics are really good writers. So.
Yeah, that's what they say. I don't know if it's true. Victor, do you think that's true?
Well, they're good comedy writers usually.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, comedy writers. I meant story writers. Like,
Yeah, structuring a story is very different. Structuring a movie script or even a TV episode, it's a very specific craft.
yeah.
It's a really specific, and once you cracked it, it becomes second nature.
So I wanted to ask you, like, what's the difference between story by and then created by and then written by? Because I know you've done
Yeah,
all three of them.
they're different in television and film. In TV, created by is a huge credit
Yeah.
because you get paid whatever happens thereafter. Story by is more in films. Occasionally, you'll see story by in a TV episode, but usually not. It's usually created by and then written by. Each episode is written by sometimes the creators, sometimes people in a writing team. Um, in film, story by means I got that I think on Tooth Fairy. That was an idea I had. I wrote a 16 page treatment, sold that. We attached to Gans and Mandel, who are the deans of comedy writing,
Yeah.
to do the first draft because I didn't want to write it. I knew that there were people that could do that type of comedy better. It was one of the few things I didn't really want to write, but I could see the poster, I could see the movie. I just knew the people who write mainstream family comedies better than me. So they came in and then once they'd done three drafts, I think a couple of writers from The Simpsons came on, Stonin and Ventimiglia, and then they did two or three drafts and changed some stuff. And then finally, Randy Mayhem Singer, who wrote Mrs. Doubtfire, came in and did the sort of final, blast. So there were 5 screenwriters credited, but I got sole story by credit.
Yeah.
So so it was, and it was, pretty close to my story. Certain things got changed. And I was able to give notes on the drafts of the screenplay, so that I helped in that sense. And I was an executive producer, so I was sort of wearing 2 hats. But that was an interesting experience. I haven't done that very often. I'm trying to think if there's any other times I have done it, in fact. But I liked it because I knew I wanted to write something else at that point in my life, and that was more of a priority in terms of me actually physically writing. So I was quite happy to see them go off and do that. And those guys are much better at doing that sort of comedy than I am. I'm much quirkier and I don't know if you'd call it indie sensibility, but it's much drier. And I don't necessarily write big mainstream. I have done and I've sold them, but it's not either my forte or what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
Or wanted to be doing, writing those big mainstream comedies.
One of the most inspiring things I read in your book is you said that when you wrote The Man, it took you about 15 or 16 years before you actually got it made.
Yeah, that's right.
So I wanted to know like how cool is that? Like where like because it's in development hell or whatever, no one's like really buying it and going through all these rewrites. How cool is that to actually have something like that come out years later?
Well, I wish I could say it was really cool. I mean, the coolest thing is just that I could write in a book that I wrote a screenplay and 17 years later it was on the screen. That's the cool bit. And I got paid a fairly good sum of money. That's the cool part. The other bit is it was one of those scripts that just kept getting optioned and optioned and optioned and fell through for various reasons. And then it finally came together. There was a young executive at New Line who had always loved it. And he said, I think I can package this. And that they got Samuel Jackson and Eugene Levy, I obviously knew quite well. So they got those actors, and then it all came together quite quickly. We had nothing to do with it, Margaret and I, because the director, who shall be nameless, but and I'd say that in the book, he's remained nameless, A, because I can't remember his name, and B, I have no interest in looking it up.
Yeah.
It was shocking, the direction, but he hired his own writer to rewrite it. Didn't even meet with us, no anything. It's fine. Okay, that happens. That's not the end of the world. But the person he hired to rewrite it, again, sure remain nameless because I couldn't for the life of me tell you his name, and even if I looked it up, I'd probably go who. Just completely took out every great scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Every set piece that you go, well, that's a big scene that everyone will talk about, and made it this kind of really one note, dick and fart joke movie, which, by the way, I'm the last person to be averse to a good dick or fart joke.
Yeah.
I've written many in my life and I adore them, but they have to have some sort of substance. It's like a fart in church is funny, but someone just repeatedly farting, for no reason gets tiring after a while. So you have to sort of pick and choose your moments for fart jokes and for dick jokes. That in isolation, they can be tedious.
Yeah.
And anyway, when we saw the movie, we went to the premiere, and it was the cheesiest premiere in history. It was actually at the Cinerama Dome, so that's not cheesy at all. It's a big opening, but it felt like it was B-list celebrities. Anyway, I watched the movie, and I remember thinking, I felt like I wandered into a theater, a multiplex. I couldn't get into the movie I wanted because it was sold out, so I just picked something else at random, and I watched it, and I thought, oh yeah, this is okay. This is passing the time. I vaguely recognized, the story because I'd written it. And most of the dialogue I didn't recognize, and the characters I recognized. I thought, oh yeah, it's okay. It's not a movie I would have chosen to watch. It's not a movie I'll recommend to anyone. It was a really odd, distanced feeling that I was watching somebody else's movie, but it was, if I hadn't known better, I'd say these bastards just ripped off my movie, and rewrote a bad version of it, which is what happened. But they didn't rip it off. We got paid.
Have you ever been to a premiere that was so bad where you were saying The Man was okay, but it was like a weird premiere? Because I've only done one movie and I went to the premiere and I was like the seventh or eighth person on the billing. I went to the premiere. I was the only star at the premiere in that whole thing. So
Oh, wow.
it was really
No,
bad.
I mostly they're reasonably well attended. It just depends, who's where. I've missed some premieres I've really wanted to be at because I've been in the wrong country, and I couldn't get out of it and couldn't, I was working. So it happens. I'm trying to think. Yeah, there's been a couple of premieres of movies that I have sat next to actors too who are in it also, and we're both looking at each other going, this isn't our cup of tea. And by the way, the couple of the movies I'm thinking of were number one movies. They opened at number one and stayed at number one for a couple of weeks. And they had a very distinct audience that loved them. And I was like, I had really had fun making it, as did all of us. And both these movies, I really enjoyed it, but just not my thing. It's just like not my taste. And uh, I think I can hopefully write better, but
Well, were one of these movies Epic Man? Just out of curiosity, or Epic
I can't
Movie?
reveal. I don't even know a movie called Epic Man, but
No, I meant Epic Movie. It was where you were
oh,
Magneto.
I can't. There was a damn fine performance, wasn't it? My
It was
Magneto.
great.
Yeah, I thought I got Sir Ian McKellen down perfectly. And there's some funny stuff in that. So anyway, I'm dodging that question.
Victor, you got a question for Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. Having been in the movie Austin Powers Goldmember, what was it
Yeah.
like working with Americans doing English accents?
Um, well, I'm used to that. I started my career here primarily on Broadway, doing British plays with there'd be two or three British actors, but there may be four or five, six American actors. So I'm used to working with American actors doing British accents. Mostly good, particularly in the theatre. There's some very good actors who got it down. Um, in a comedy, in a broad comedy, it doesn't really matter. What film did you mention? You mentioned
Goldmember?
Goldmember, yeah. Well, obviously, he'd already made that accent famous, Mike, and he'd done a very good job, and it was very funny. But even if it was over the top and cartoony, it's still very funny.
Yeah.
Austin Powers' voice. And I think actually most of the other English people in it were English. I mean, Michael York's English. I can't remember who else was in that particular one, but often they will hire, English actors. So it doesn't often happen. There was actually a show I did, I think it might have been Netflix. I did a show, and there was some pretty bad English accents. And friends of mine who saw it in England said, "Wow, you stood out because you knew you were English, but it really showed up the other accents." That's unfortunate, but that doesn't happen very often. That's very rare.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about Love for Rent, which I thought was a really cute movie and really good. And
Yeah.
I wanted to know like what was that experience like? Because you were like one of the top stars in that. You know, you were in a big chunk of it.
Yeah. Thank you. It was fun to do. I liked it. It was a good experience, and I enjoyed very much working with everybody on it. Nora Dunn played my wife, and she was great. And it was I think it was a very happy company. And who else was in it? Somebody else I've worked with many times.
I just remember Nora
Ken
Gunn.
Marino. Ken
Oh
Marino.
yeah, Ken, yeah.
So it was, yeah, it's a very cute movie. It's a little bit Hallmark Hall of Fame for me, my personal taste, but it was very nicely done. Apparently, the director told me, I don't know whether he's blowing smoke up my ass or not. The director told me that Roger Daltrey was begging him to play that part, but he had his mind absolutely set on me playing it, which is remarkable because it's not a typical thing I buy. It's within my range, but it's not like I would have gone, wow, that's a Jim Piddock part. No
Yeah.
one else can play that. But of course I made it so.
Uh, and then you saved the world in Independence Day,
I
which
did.
yeah.
And you're welcome. I did I helped save the world. Actually, when push came to the shove, they left me standing in the desert while the Brits and the rest of the world, while the Americans did it, greedy
Yeah.
bastards. So the Americans took all the glory and the credits and the billing in the movie. But yes, I did help save the world.
I heard a story about that movie that when it came out, everybody thought, like from different countries, that Bill Pullman was actually the real president because just
Oh,
how he like. I thought that was kind of cool because I
wow.
know he used to be a professor before he
Yeah.
became an actor, so I was like, oh yeah. And then Mad About you got the opportunity to play two different characters on that show, so I want to know what was that experience like?
Yeah, that was an odd one. I went in to do a guest shot, and I did that and played a role, particular role. And then a great friend of mine who sadly passed away last year, Paxton Whitehead, was playing a next door neighbor with Judy Geeson. They were the older sort of British next door neighbors. And Paxton was doing a lot of theatre by the time they got to season whatever it was. And it was probably season two or three, actually. And he couldn't do it anymore. So they needed to replace that character. And the writer producer called me and said, "Look, like you to do it. And I said, are you sure? Because I'm 15 years younger than Paxton, I think at least. And I'm 15 years younger than Judy, I think. So it's odd. And they said, oh, we'll age you up. Don't worry, we'll age you up. And then I said, well, how are you going to explain it? Like she's got divorced and remarried, or I'm her boyfriend now and he died, or you know what? And they said, oh, no, you're just going to be the same character. And it was odd to me, that choice. And so I went in and played the part. And I'm so different from Paxton physically and vocally. And so it was just odd that, and I suppose people who loved the show must have gone, what happened? But
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a normal thing in television. I don't think it is, but it's not something I would do. But yeah, so I ended up playing two different roles. And then I was on it for, I don't know, 2 or 3 seasons, I think, on that role.
So so the bright side, at least it was a nice little payday. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it was a guaranteed amount per season, but it was just a strange experience, all round. It was odd.
And then I wanted to ask you about Traces of Red.
Yeah.
That was the first movie that you wrote, and that actually got the green light to film. And Tony Goldwyn was in it, so I was thinking, what's it like? Because you had a couple scenes in that as well. Is it hard for you to act and stuff you've written, or do you get the opportunity to rewrite your scenes?
No, I mean, I've generally always played fairly small parts in things I've written because I always write stuff I want to write, and then at the end I go, oh, what can I play? And there's nothing I'm right for except a small part.
Yeah.
So I end up not doing a huge amount. I mean, there's a series I'm developing now where I'll play one of the main characters, but yeah, in films particularly, I just write what I want to write, and I don't go, let me write me a role. It's odd sort of shifting hats because I'm usually involved on a production as a producer.
Mhm.
So that's odd in the sense that I'm suddenly, instead of, whispering in the director's ear or trying to figure out things, it's actually, I've got to perform. But no, I mean, the great thing is you can stop at any point and say, who wrote this shit? And then you can, oh yeah, okay, no, it was me. I might as well continue. So yes, that's the best part of it.
When you were a younger lad, did you ever consider doing stand-up comedy, or was that not?
Probably for about two seconds.
Oh,
I love stand-up comics. I grew up with Billy Connolly, Jasper Carrott, great stand-up comics, and I just thought I was always someone that was more comfortable hiding behind a character. I was an actor primarily, not a comedian. I happened to end up being in certainly the early part of the first couple of decades of my career, mostly in comedies, because it was
yeah.
something I could naturally do quite well. I tend to do more dramas now, but what was the question again?
Oh, when you were a younger fella, did you ever consider doing stand-up?
Oh yeah, though. So I got sidetracked, which often happens. No, so no, I didn't seriously consider it, and I would have found that too personal a rejection. If someone doesn't like a play or the character in a play, and luckily I've never really gotten bad reviews in theatre or anything for my performances. So I find that safer hiding behind a character. And nowadays, I like to play myself more. I've done some bit of TV presenting, and I tend to want to do parts where I don't have to really act so much. It's just more a side of me. But stand up it's do or die. You tell a joke and you don't get any reaction. It's mortifying, I would think. At least if you're in a play that's a comedy and you say the line, it doesn't get a laugh, you go, oh, okay, we got to think how we say that, but I didn't write it. It's not my joke.
Right, yeah.
So it's easier to. I think it's very difficult. Stand up. I think most stand-ups I know are. They all say it takes the usual 10,000 hours to become good at it, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
every one of them said I was rubbish for the first few years, and then I got it. They've all had disastrous gigs where they were booed and funnily enough, it's not for everybody. It's a very specific I think it's a very specific mentality. Um, some of them are stable, but an awful lot of stand-ups I know are manic depressives. It's a difficult world, and it's a very lonely world because even if you're touring and successful, you're on your own.
Yeah.
I asked Martin Short, one time, because I knew him fairly well, and he to me is one of the funniest people, just in person, and
Yeah.
he's a natural extrovert, and he'll stand up at a party and take over. He'll tell stories, and I said, "Have you ever done stand up? Did you begin in stand up?" Because I knew he started in sketch comedy, and he said, "I tried it once." He said, "I walked on stage, I told my first joke, and someone in the front row threw a glass of beer in my face." He said,
Oh my God.
I walked off the stage and I never tried it again. And so, even for the boldest of the bold,
Yeah.
it's sometimes daunting. And it wasn't, again, I'm not a joke writer. I can write comedy, but I don't write jokes per se. And I think, parts of my book could be done in a sort of,
One man type thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
one man show, yeah.
Yeah.
With funny stories, but they're not, bang, 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 joke. And my writing isn't bang, bang, joke, 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 joke. It's character based, and it comes out of situations and execution of how people say things and how, observation.
Yeah, I mean, I totally disagree. I think your book is really good written, bang, 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 and I would pay to go
Oh,
see
thank you.
that. So like if you ever do that, let me know. I would go support you all the time because
Oh, thank you.
I
I
love
have
that.
written I have written a draft of the one man show, but it became more to just a series of anecdotes. It just needs a bit more shape. It needs a bit more of a beginning and a middle and an end,
Yeah.
other than this is how I started and this is how I ended. It's just got to have something. It's got to have a purpose more than just a potted version of my autobiography. I think to
Yeah.
make it a valid theatre piece.
You mentioned Martin Short, and while you were mentioning it, the story came to my head. I remember because I'm like one of the biggest Martin Short fans. And I remember he did, I'm not too sure if it's The View or The Tonight Show or something, but he did an interview and somebody asked him how his wife was doing, and he just said, "Oh, she's doing great. We're having a ball and stuff." And then after the show, he said, "By the way, my wife died 3 years ago." And like, I just thought that that was just so genius how he just managed to, you know what I mean, stick
Yeah.
to making people laugh in that moment. So like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying on the genius of Martin Short, just how quick he is on that.
Yeah, yeah, that's bold. That's bold. And yeah, my instinct would be to just come straight out with the truth and then make a joke about it at the other
Yeah.
person's expense.
Yeah, I don't know. And then you worked with Fred Willard a lot,
Yeah,
and I actually knew Fred a little, and I thought he was the one of the greatest guys in the world.
yeah. Well, the world has lost a comic genius, and I don't use that word lightly, either comic or genius. He really was one of the great comedy actors, certainly of not my generation, the generation ahead of me. And he was also just a lovely man. I knew him very well and would see him frequently. And I miss him today. I miss him. He was so different from what he played. That was what was always fascinating. Fred had his performance persona.
Yeah,
Uh, he played a boorish bull in a china shop American better than anybody I've ever seen in my life, I think. I mean, Will Ferrell can do it, but there's always an intelligence behind Will Ferrell's, got those guys. Fred could play genuinely like he was that guy. And so not that guy in real life and not a person who tells jokes or tries to be funny. He's quite introverted and shy and
he
just
was
talks.
very shy. Yeah,
Yeah, talks on a one-to-one basis and usually about serious things. And then he can flip it, at a party, you'll be having a conversation with him about certain things and very serious conversation. And then, his wife would say, "Oh, Fred, we did to do this." And he'd get up and do something. And it was a different Fred, and everybody knew that he presented this persona that he created most of his characters from. And they endured for several decades. They never got tiresome.
Yeah. I remember like one of the best compliments he gave me. He and Mary went to my show at the I want to say Brea Improv when I because I used to tour with Norm Macdonald.
Oh
And
yeah.
he went to the show and Norm and Fred were really good friends. And after the show, he came up to me and he said, "Hey, Norm Macdonald's the funniest guy in the world, but you're the funniest kid in the world."
That's
I thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. You know what I
how
mean?
lovely. How nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I loved Mary. I thought she was a sweetheart as well, So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's still hard for me to believe that they're both gone. I mean, Mary preceded Fred by a couple of years, and that was the. I mean, Fred we knew wasn't particularly well, and he was in his late 80s or mid 80s. Mary was quite a bit younger, and that was just very, very sudden.
yeah.
And there was sort of a group of us that would. They had 3 parties a year, Fred and Mary. Christmas, St. Paddy's Day, and July 4th. And the same, well, it wasn't always the same people, but a sort of floating core of 40, 50 people, and then 20 or 30 others would always be there. And I miss seeing all those people now because we don't have those 3 events per year. And
Yeah.
even if I managed to be in town for 1 or 2 of them, it was a time to catch up with everybody. And sadly, that doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Well, if I ever get like hugely famous and I throw parties, you could always come to me. And
Yeah, I'll be the old lag, who
yeah.
just sits in the corner and complains about how the business is not what it used to be, and whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Victor, you got any other questions for Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. What's the best piece of advice that you've gotten with writing that you still incorporate today?
Wow, I can't remember who said it, but it's 2 words. It's 2 words, and I've got it pinned up, or I had it pinned up. Finish it.
Yeah.
That's it. Finish it. Whatever you're writing, finish it. Don't stop. So many people say, "Oh, I'm third of the way through my novel, or I'm 2/3 of the way through my novel," and then you see them 2 years later, and they go, "Yeah, yeah, it's coming along. I'm probably finished next year." And then 3 years later, you say, "How's the novel going?" "Well, I'm almost finished." No, finish it,
Yeah.
finish it, and then worry about rewriting it. Because once you've got the clay, you can shape that into anything you want. But without that clay, without that basic thing. And I do it with screenplays, I do it with everything. I write it not as fast as I can, but I try and get the whole thing down, constructed in some form. It's like building a house. You do the framing, and then you can work from there. Once you've got the framing up and the walls, you can decorate it however you like and do whatever you want, and adjust things and whatever. So I would say finish it would be my 2-word advice. Yeah.
Do you think that that's a problem a lot of writers actually do have because they don't know how to finish, maybe?
Yeah, they either haven't plotted out ahead where they're going with it, or they're painfully slow, or they're painfully. You can't. I don't think you can. I sometimes stop and go back and rewrite things and then continue. It depends on the day or the mood I'm in. But I'd rather just keep going and go back and then make it better and have a rough first draft. But until you've got that shape, I don't, I feel like I want to get it down. I mean, probably I hurry too much, but um, I just think a lot of people procrastinate and are waiting for inspiration. And I mean, it's another cliche, but writing is 98% perspiration and 2% inspiration. It's just do it, just finish it. And if you haven't, if it's not coming from beginning to end in some shape or form or progression, you haven't worked it out. It's not worth writing. You might as well stop and do something else, because once you start writing, you should have a very clear idea of what you're writing,
Yeah.
how it's going to end, where you're, going with it. Otherwise, I think you're just sort of stream of consciousness. I don't think that generally doesn't work film, TV, theater, whatever. The stream of consciousness can work for, you know, weird novels. Yeah, but not what I do.
Yeah. Victor, you got any more questions before I ask my final three?
Yeah. What was it like working on the Drew Carey show?
Oh, I loved it. Loved it. Yeah, I love Drew. I love all those people were great. It was a happy set. Even though I came in sort of in later seasons, when they could have been jaded. It was a really fun set. No one took it too seriously. I worked mostly with Drew and with Craig Ferguson, who I liked very much indeed. And I had fun. I had fun, and I'm still in touch with a couple of the writers actually who were on that show, who stayed in touch. Yeah, that and Diedrich Bader became a friend. So and I see Drew now every so often too. So yeah, I think that was a fun experience. I liked that show.
Now, Jim, I want to respect your time, but I have three more quick questions.
Yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask you about in your book. Sorry to go back to the book, but I thought this
No,
was.
no, keep going back to the book.
Oh, okay. Going back to the book, guys.
Do you mean this book? This one?
Yeah, the
Yeah, that
great,
one.
the greatest book of all time, Caught with My Pants Down.
The greatest book ever written.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you. In your book, you wrote that. I don't remember word for word but I remember the point. You wrote that you had a nightmare or dream that Bill Paxton haunted you and was talking to you.
Yeah,
And
no, hold me. I mean, I was friends with Bill and we worked. So it's actually a good way to go out. When I've done book readings or book stuff, I generally do a talk or I'm interviewed, and then I only read the last bit of the book because it's condensed version of I was half asleep, half awake. And it was a year or two after he died. And I just heard his voice in my head so strongly. And it really it was a long, long conversation I had with him in my head and stuff that I wouldn't normally have ever thought of. And I thought, I'm going to write all this down because there's things here and thoughts and ideas that are beyond my comprehension or what I normally do. But I'll actually read it because it's the if you don't mind,
oh yeah,
because
definitely.
I often finish talks with this because it's a lovely way to go out. And it's the most poetic part of the book, which is not poetic at all.
Before you read it, can I still ask my two questions after you read it?
Yeah, I'll
Oh,
end with this.
oh, okay.
I'll end with this. So
Oh,
give me those
okay.
two questions. Yeah.
Okay. So this is a joke question that you know, I think is very, very funny. What's it like being John Cusack's brother-in-law?
Uh, yeah, no, I haven't been his brother-in-law very long. I mean, Annie and I have been together for 13 years, but we got married last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, John and Joan are my in-laws now. It's great. I mean, John's a real stand-up guy.
Yeah.
He's now very political and exactly on the right side of history. But he's John's a really he's a good guy. He's one of the good ones. And what I like about him is that he may not be big on small talk, which you know I'm used to being English and
Yeah.
but John is one of those people that you know would always be there when you need him.
Yeah. He's my hero, and yeah, and I'm actually friends with Anne. I interviewed her, and we talk on social media, and I think
Yeah, yeah. She mentioned that she'd done an interview with
yeah,
you because
and,
I had to sort of say, you know, what's this going to be like? And she said, oh, you'll have fun. So
yeah, yeah. I think she's great. I'm very thankful that I'm friends with her because I saw her. She sings in a blues band, and
yeah, no, yeah. She just
I
did a
thought
gig.
she was incredible. So
Yeah,
I will always support Ann Cusack. I think she's a great friend. So yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And my last question for you is, Jim, if you could go into a time machine and talk to a younger version of yourself, it
Mhm.
could be from yesterday or when you were a kid or whatever, but you tell yourself what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Um, Again, I can give you a one-word answer. I mean, I tell myself a number of things, but one word answer, one word of advice: confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence can get you a long way. A lot of people are talented. A
Yeah.
lot of people are talented. A lot of people work hard, but that reduces the number of people who are going to be successful. And then the final piece of that jigsaw is confidence, because I've seen people with minimal talent, very minimal talent, who don't work very hard, but have got a very long way on confidence. They just believe 100% in themselves. They never doubt it. It's very difficult to do. And I think great artists and great creative people are often people filled with self-doubt.
Yeah.
There must be underneath that sort of self-doubt about the specifics of what you're doing. There must be an underlying confidence that you just know you can do it and you know you're going to succeed. That's very hard. And not many people have that. I think I had probably, I gained it as I went along. But I think it's one of those things that if you've got that unshakable confidence, it can take you a long way. It's not a guarantee of anything. None of the things I mentioned are guarantees of anything.
Yeah.
But that would be the thing I would just say: confidence.
I'm so glad you said that, and you didn't say, "Hey, if Keith Reza asks you to do his podcast, say no."
Well, that was my real answer, but I'm faking it right now. So one thing I will say, you can read my mind.
Jim, before you read your quote, where can the folks at home follow and support you at?
Well, you can find me when you least want to, popping up on your TV screen in something or other. But yeah, I'm very, very proud of this book. I'm very, very proud of it. I think it's a fun read. It's got feedback from me from people within show business who really, really liked it. And what pleased me probably even more, because I set out to write it for everybody, is that people who have nothing to do with show business, some people who even don't like show business, have contacted me and said they absolutely loved it. And there was one person who said it got them through. Their husband had a life or death operation, and she was at the hospital for the 10 hours or however long the operation lasted. And she read my book to distract herself. And she said it got me through the hardest day of my life. And she said it made me laugh on the hardest day of my life. And it made me cry on the hardest day of my life. And I thought that was the greatest gift that anyone could give me.
Yeah.
Because that meant that it was worthwhile. If no one else had read it, if no one else had liked it, if I didn't sell copies and it got horrible reviews, which thankfully none of those things happened, thank God, it still could sell a lot more books. But books are books. But that was just made it for me. And I got loads of actually weird feedback. I got an ex-Marine who lives in the Midwest who said it changed his life in terms of looking at, because the book has a philosophy actually to it. It didn't intend to do, but there is a philosophy that comes out by the end of it.
Yeah.
And it's an everyman story, really. It could be, people can relate it to any part of their life or anything they do. It's not just about acting or writing or whatever, or show business. It's just about an approach to life, told through that lens. And then there were two, I mean, it's quite irreverent, the book. It's very irreverent, and there's a lot of swearing, and there's, some sort of not racy bits, but it doesn't hold back. And I had two ministers, religious ministers, contacting me to say that they absolutely loved it and it really resonated for them.
Yeah.
And again, they had nothing to do with show business. I think they were in, I don't know, Kentucky. I can't remember. So those sort of things that you get back are worth their weight in gold. I mean, I luckily got, I don't know, 20 or 30 celebrities, much bigger celebrities and much bigger names than me, to endorse the book and write lovely things about it. Although I never heard back from Stephen Fry, the bastard.
Well,
So
I'll endorse it. I think it's
exactly.
great.
No, I mean it's so I am very proud of it, and I think it's a great holiday. It's a great beach read. It's a fun plane read. It's a really quick, easy, fun read, and I think it has some serious stuff in it too. It's got a couple of serious chapters that people sort of were some people's favorites. They said I was crying at the end of those, and I think that I feel very proud of it, as I said. And if I can find a way to turn it into, a performance thing, I will, because I think it stands up, and it's not, as you read it, it's not just about me. It's life through my lens, and it's as much about other people and the people I've encountered and the things I've encountered. So it's not a particularly navel-gazing memoir. I don't think. I hope it isn't. I don't think it is. No. Anyway, shall I read this?
Of course.
And I'll give you the context. And I was saying that I wrote these things down, and me reciting this. If anyone that writes down what they sort of hear in a dream, you could either say it was me talking to myself in my own head, or if you're of the religious or spiritual bent, you could say it was him talking to me. Or you could say that I need to seek medical and psychiatric help because I'm hearing voices in my head. But this is some of what I wrote. All of life, whoever you are, what you achieve, what your relationships are, everything is a choice. Every second of every day, from the minute you're born. It's not often complicated or multiple choices, mostly just A or B. But it defines everything about our personalities and our lives. When you're alive, time is linear and horizontal. Outside of that, time is vertical. Look up or down that tube and you can see everything, past, present, and future, all as one. It doesn't exist as past, present, or future, just all at the same time, in an instant or an eternity. But while you're living in linear, horizontal time, you can't see all the highs and lows or the victories and defeats that are to come. So you have to enjoy the moment. It's the only way to experience linear time. And again, it's a choice. It doesn't matter if this is me talking to you or you talking to yourself. It's all the same thing, just a reflection and a refraction, like sound. So that's what I wrote. That's very unlike anything I've ever written.
Yeah.
That's why I thought this is a voice. This is an interesting, and I didn't read it in an imitation of Bill's voice because that would be weird. And I can do an imitation of him, but it's not that good.
Yeah.
But I still find that interesting reading it. I haven't read that for a year or so, or a few months anyway. And I still find that interesting that those thoughts and those concepts came to me that morning when I was in a half sleep state, in his voice, because those are not things that have ever occurred to me before.
Yeah. Well, Jim, thank you so much for even reading that. That meant a lot to me. And thank you so much for saying yes to letting me interview you. That means a lot to me.
Thanks for
And
having me on. It was a pleasure.
and if you ever are in LA doing anything, please let me know. And if I don't have a gig, I'll go support you.
Thank you. I'm in LA doing nothing.
Ah, all right.
But not for much longer. I'm here for probably a little few more weeks. Anyway, lovely to meet you both and talk to you. Have a great rest of your week and be safe.
You as well. Tell Ann I said hello.
Oh, well. Bye
All
now.
right. Bye, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, guys. That was the interview with Jim Piddock. Subscribe, rate, review. Victor, very touching stuff, huh?
Yeah, it was fun and
Ah,
nice. It was really, really awesome.
so I think that's kind of cool how he ended on the Bill Paxton haunting story because I don't know about you, but I've been haunted by death people before. Have you?
Yeah, dude, I've had some haunting, horrible, well, not horrible, but just spooky encounters, man. And unless it's happened to you, like people are like, I don't believe you. You're full of shit.
Yeah.
And so it's just until it happens to you, and it's just like, how do you explain this? You can't explain it. Just
Yeah.
spooky stuff, but. Wow.
Do you have like a story you feel comfortable sharing or no?
No, I mean it's just like, I've seen the ghost of my grandfather after he died,
Yeah.
in the hallway. I've seen my great grandmother's ghost when I was camping. Like it was just like a lot of different things that I've seen before. I've seen like different spirits, and it sucks because it's like people are like, "Oh, well, you were having an acid flashback." And it's like I wasn't having an acid flashback when I was 5 or
Right.
when I was 7, respectively. You know what I mean? It's just like so it's just like people, "Oh, what about you?"
Oh, dude, yeah. I'm a big I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I'm a big believer in that stuff. Like I think they're spirits and I think they
Oh, there's
can
definitely
haunt.
spirits. Definitely
Yeah.
spirits.
I
Dude, yeah,
think
people that don't believe it, I think they're just in denial.
yeah, like I think they can haunt you, but for the most part, like I could feel Norm and Saget's spirits with me a lot. So like I know, you know what I mean? So like I know their spirits. And
Well,
hey,
those are your
you're
friends. Those are your friends. Those are like different spirits and just like,
uh
there's like evil spirits. It's definitely not your friends.
oh yeah, like
Like,
I'm not being haunted by Casper or anything, but
no, no,
yeah.
you're not getting haunted by Saget or Norm. It's just you got the spirit of them like looking out for you and also influencing you, but not in a bad or
Yeah.
negative way. Otherwise, it would be haunting. But it's just like you still have this. That's crazy. It's like the difference between a ghost and a spirit. Spirit
Yeah.
inspires you. A ghost spooks you.
And a ghost says boo. Uh
Keith, what the
uh
fuck is wrong with you? That's great. And a ghost goes, "Ooh."
so when Jim was telling us the Martin Short story, you know
Yeah.
how he did stand up and someone threw beer at him? Like
Yeah.
like if I was Martin Short, I would have said that's when I started drinking beer.
Isn't he like a clean dude?
I don't know,
I
but
think he's a clean dude. Like both
it's
like
just
no, no,
making
no. I know what you're saying, but no, I mean that goes with like against their persona or their character. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I don't know.
Uh,
It'd be like Rodney Dangerfield not having whores.
yeah.
Like,
Well,
yeah, I'm no longer having whores. It's like,
well,
Rodney, what's up with all your whores?
well, I don't know. Maybe Harry Basil's one of them. I don't know. Love you, Harry. That's the thing that people don't get is this is a comedy podcast. So like
Yeah.
some
Not to
whatever.
be taken 100% seriously with any
It's
type of
not supposed to be taken serious, but it's supposed to be taken true with laughter. That's how I look at it.
so
So,
then yeah, then people will take it seriously if they're offended. You know.
but it's supposed to be in the verge of laughter. So
No, but
you,
that's what I'm saying though, man. I mean, dude, we've all been there with like comedy clubs, like everyone pays to get in, and
yeah,
there's still somebody that's like, I can't believe they talked about so and so like that. It's just like it's a comedy show.
yeah, yeah,
Like honestly, like, and then there'd be people like I've had people come up to me and like, I know you toured with Norm, and so like, you're with Norm, but there's times when you're just hosting or opening or whatever, you don't know the headliner. Like I had somebody come up to me when I was opening for John Witherspoon. They're like, "Hey, can you like tell John Witherspoon to Can you tell him to say next time when he's doing his quotes of his movies to say, don't go in there for 35 or 45 minutes." And I'm like, I don't know John like that. I'm just opening for him at this club.
well, you
I
can't do that anyway because John is no longer with us.
No, no. I mean, this is like right
Oh,
after the show.
okay.
This is like right after the show that I'm getting. I mean, of course I can't anymore, but I mean, it's just like at the time it was just like I can't. I mean, even like with you and Norm, you were friends with Norm. You can't go up to Norm and be like, "Hey, somebody in the audience said that you should do it like this. Hey, Norm, you should do it like." You can't do that.
Oh, I've done that a couple times. I remember one time
Did he tell
at
you to go fuck yourself? Sorry, I didn't mean to like cut forward like
no, no.
that.
So one time this guy, I was selling Norm shirts or whatever, and this guy told me, he's like, "Hey, tell Norm to do dirty work." So I was like, "All right." And
What do you mean,
Norm's,
like to do the second one, like make a second one, or
I
like
don't, I
jokes
don't,
about dirty work?
I don't know. Let me finish the story. So after I go to the green room. Norm's like, "Hey, how much dough do we have? Maybe we could get a lady of the night if we sold some shirts, you know." And then I was like,
These are the stories everyone wants to hear, Keith.
and then I was like, Norm, this guy just told me to tell you to do dirty work. He's like, what does that mean? I don't get what's huh? I hear he did a movie called Dirty Work. You know, should tell him to do his research. You know, how much should we make? All right, guys. That was the interview with Jim Piddock. Buy his book. I thought it was great, and like I said, that I wasn't lying. That was a good read, and that chapter just really opened my eyes and made me feel good. So, guys, support Jim Piddock. Subscribe, rate, review if you like the show. Victor, we'll see you guys next week on Razor Riffs.